his channel, Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Yeah, sorry about the facial there. It's been a bit of a hot day, but I thought we should engage just briefly. I hope you guys can hear me wherever it is that you're going to be tuned from. Mic check. Yes, I think we're good to go. Anyways, the big breaking news is that Arsenal defender Gabriel Magalhaes is being ruled out for the remainder of the season. We all know that he did suffer a hamstring injury in Arsenal's 2-1 victory over Fulham midweek. That was on Tuesday night. He did go off around the 16th minute of the game, and for a period of about a minute or a minute and a half, he remained on the pitch despite that injury, because he sustained the injury trying to run back to defend a Fulham counter-attack, and he pulls his hamstring. And then Arsenal regained possession, and they continued to play on even when he was at the back signaling that they should put the play to a halt. It looked like Arsenal players did not heed to that. Not that all of them were aware of what was going on at the back, but he had signaled, and he did signal on different occasions. So Arsenal go in the offense for quite a bit of time, and then they concede possession to Fulham. And then when Fulham come to attack, Magalhaes goes down again, and he signals for the referee to stop play. But because it's not a head injury or a very dangerous injury, a life-threatening injury, the referee could not have play. He was not obligated to. And as a player that cares about his team, he stood up again and tried to play. Arsenal players now started signaling for Fulham to put out the ball, and yet they themselves, when they had the ball in their possession, they could not implement that. So it became a bit like it was going to be unfair. Actually, it was unfair for Arsenal to ask that of Fulham. Yet when they were in possession, when the odds were in their favor, they did not implement that. So clearly, it was going to be. So eventually, what happened was Fulham refused to play the ball out until Arsenal regained possession, and of course, eventually Gabriel Magalhaes had to be taken off. So when he was taken off, he did hold his hamstring, and you could see the disappointment on his face when he was walking behind David Willa's goal, that he was really disappointed, not with himself, but with the occurrence of the injury in itself. And now he's been ruled out for the remainder of the season because of that very injury. You could see the disappointment on his face. You could see that sort of feeling of being in a low moment as he walks off the pitch, and it was very saddening to see. Arsenal fans had hoped that it wouldn't be as bad as it is, but unfortunately for them, it is that bad. Please forgive the background noise. Kids are playing on the outside, and I do not have much control of that. So, like I was saying, so Arsenal fans had hoped that the injury wouldn't be as bad, but unfortunately, it is that bad. It's a hamstring, and according to the reports we're getting, he's going to need surgery. I think this is the third hamstring injury that Arsenal have suffered this season that requires surgery. And I think it's their fifth player who has needed surgery this season. The first one to suffer a hamstring injury that needed surgery was Bukayo Saka, then followed Kai Havertz. That was later on, I think very early into Feb or late Jan, around that period when during the Dubai camp, when he suffered that hamstring, and then he was ruled out for the remainder of the season. And according to the Arsenal website, they say he will undergo surgery and treatment, rehabilitation, and prepare himself for the following season. So now it looks like Gabriel Magalhaes has followed Kai Havertz out, and yet Bukayo Saka just made his Arsenal's victory over Fulham after 3 months of the sidelines. We all know that we are in April, we are just left with 2 months to come to the end of the season, essentially, and then that's April and May, and so by the time we end the season, of course, he will have healed. We also that took Bukayo Saka, a much young player, 3 months, at least 3 months to recover fully. And yet Gabriel Magalhaes, who is a bit older, I think 25, 26, they're about. It may take him even slightly longer. So those are players that have really played so many games. For Arsenal, he's been a mainstay in the squad with William Saliba and that kind of thing. So according to the news, here's what came out, that Gabriel Magalhaes will be out until the end of the season. Gabriel will require surgery on his hamstring and will be out until the start of next season. So that's the big breaking news at Arsenal. Why the news in itself is very disappointing is it does come when Arsenal, we all know, are building up to that biggest part of the season. The biggest part of the season, we're trying to finish the season on a high note, but they are also still in the UEFA Champions League, where they're going to be playing Real Madrid at the quarterfinals. And for a team like Arsenal facing Real Madrid in the UEFA Champions League, you're clearly the underdog. You're obviously the underdog, regardless of which squad looks like what. And with that in mind, if you're an Arsenal fan, if you're an Arsenal sympathizer, you had hope that by the time you face Real Madrid, you have all your best players available to you for your selection. But we all know that that's not going to be the case. Gabriel Magalhaes is now out until the rest of the season. Kai Havertz is already down that path. Gabriel Jesus is already down that path. I think he's one of those players that have had to undergo surgery in the course of this season. For Arsenal players that have undergone surgery due to injury, Gabriel Jesus, Bukayo Saka, Kai Havertz, Takahiro Tomiyasu, Benjamin White, they all have undergone surgeries. For Gabriel Jesus and Ben White, there were knee surgeries. For Bukayo Saka and Kai Havertz, and now the case going to be with Gabriel Magalhaes is the hamstring, surgery. So it's basically a muscle that tears within a player's eye. That, if I'm to explain it in a layman's language, usually there's a tear of muscles that need to be repaired. That's why these players require surgery. Maybe, and this is a big maybe. Not that it's so much of an advantage. Of course, it's unfortunate for Real Madrid on the other side, but maybe Arsenal can take solace in knowing that Real Madrid themselves have struggled with injuries across the course of the season. And as we speak, this is their injury list, at least. Real Madrid's injury list 5 days before facing Arsenal. Andre Rooney is a doubt. Thibaut Courtois is out injured. Dani Ceballos out injured. Paland Mendy, that's the left back, out injured. Eder Militao, we all know he's had an anterior cruciate ligament injury, the one similar to what Julian Timber suffered at the start of last season, and that kind of thing. Then Dani Carvajal also suffered an ACL, but I did see Dani Carvajal return to training. Maybe his fortunes may be different prior to that, but nonetheless, like we did discuss in that video that's on the channel, which I discussed the 5 reasons I should be scared in facing Real Madrid, is knowing that Real Madrid have a very huge squad bigger than that of Arsenal, and they have a very strong attack that can hurt you even when their defensive problems could be as big as they are. But with the absence of the likes of Eder Militao, you do not know whether David Alaba will be fit on that day, whether he will be out injured. You never know with him, and that kind of thing. But the mere fact that Madrid have a Vinicius, Rodrigo, Jude Bellingham, Kylian Mbappe, and Endrick, Adabula, Federico Valverde, who's been in recent times played at right back in the absence of Dani Carvajal, and all those players, Aurelio Tchouameni, Eduardo Camavinga, and Luka Modric, that cohort of players really, even with their injury problems, because of the size of their squad, because of the depth of their squad, because of the amount of talent, the plethora of talent in their squad, it still gives them that advantage, even when they have injuries to deal with. As far as Arsenal are concerned, unfortunately for them, their backline is going thin and thinner. because of these injuries. So Gabriel Magalhaes is out. We all know Ben White suffered a knock. That's why he was absent for their game against Fulham on Tuesday. Timber literally limped off because he had an issue with his knee. But according to reports coming out, Arsenal that it was simply a knock, it was nothing too serious, and they will try to manage it and could be even available for selection over the weekend when they face off with Everton. But my gut feeling says that Mikel Arteta could look to rest him and maybe play. I wouldn't be surprised if he reverts to play Thomas Partey at right back and then have Jorginho come play that holding midfield role and that kind of thing, or have that role be played by Declan Rice, and then slot in another player. Maybe you have Ethan Nwaneri play with as a 10, and then you have Martin Odegaard playing alongside Declan Rice, whichever way he may choose to tweak his side. Hello, Jenny. Thank you for tuning to the broadcast and that kind of thing. So that kind of expectation is there. So I could give you the only natural replacement of a left-footed centre back that's available for their selection, and he's the one that was brought on when Gabriel Magalhaes got injured, while Ricardo Carafiori also himself got injured during that international break. So he returned with an injury. He will be out for a matter of weeks. We do not know how many weeks. So we'll await and see how all that spans out. Anyways, that's the big breaking news. Do let me know what your thoughts are and keep it on the channel. Until next time, stay blessed.